How many humans would repopulate Earth? You're about to discover that the survival of humanity depends on a number that might surprise you. And no, it's not two. Imagine this. A catastrophic event has wiped out 99.9% of humanity. Cities are empty. The internet is gone. Power plants have shut down. Somewhere on this dying planet, a small group of humans is still breathing. They don't know it yet, but they're going to decide whether our species gets a second chance. The question sounds simple. How many people do you need to restart civilization? But the answer is far more complicated than you might think. Let's start with the obvious answer that everyone gets wrong. Two humans, one man and one woman. They could have children. Their children could have more children. And theoretically, in about 200 years, humanity could rebuild itself. But here's where biology throws a wrench into that romantic notion. Those two parents would pass down only the genetic diversity they personally carry. Every single human on the new Earth would be a variation of those two genetic codes. That's not just limiting, that's genetic catastrophe. The second generation arrives. They're healthy, they're viable. But now comes the problem that no survival manual prepares you for. Every eligible partner is a sibling. Every child born from their reproduction carries genetic mutations that shouldn't exist. The third generation is worse. The fourth generation barely survives childhood. By the 10th generation, your population doesn't just fail to grow, it collapses. This isn't speculation. This happened in the real world. Between 73,000 and 100,000 years ago, Mount Toba in Indonesia erupted. It was so catastrophic that it triggered a volcanic winter. The sun was blocked out. Temperatures dropped across the planet. Scientists believe the entire human population crashed down to somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000 individuals. Some estimates go even lower. Humanity nearly went extinct, and we survived with a population smaller than a large university. But we survived. Why? The answer is genetic diversity. Not perfect genetic diversity, but enough. When geneticists model population collapse and recovery, they've discovered something critical. With just 2 humans, you have the problem we described. With 10 humans, you still face severe genetic bottleneck issues. The inbreeding depression accelerates. Recessive genetic disorders emerge. Fertility drops, and the population can't sustain itself. With 50 humans, you see a slight improvement, but you're still walking a genetic tightrope. You might have enough diversity to survive 5 or 6 generations before genetic problems start compounding. But here's where the number gets interesting. With 500 humans, you've crossed an important threshold. This is called the minimum viable population threshold. 500 individuals carry enough genetic diversity that a population can theoretically sustain itself indefinitely. The genetic load, the burden of harmful mutations, stays manageable. Birth defects don't skyrocket. Fertility remains relatively stable. But 500 isn't actually the magic number either. That's the bare minimum. The truly safe number is higher. Population geneticists have refined their models over decades. They've studied bottlenecks in animal populations. They've examined what happened to endangered species. And they've run simulations of human population collapse scenarios thousands of times. The consensus is this. You need somewhere between 500 and 1,000 individuals to create a stable, self-sustaining human population that can recover over centuries. But wait, that's just genetic diversity. There's another problem that matters just as much: knowledge. If your 500 survivors are randomly selected humans from the modern world, you might have accountants, artists, teachers, and social media managers. You have very few people who know how to build shelter without electricity, purify water without municipal treatment, grow food from scratch without commercial fertilizers, treat infections without antibiotics, create tools without factories. This is why the composition of your 500 matters as much as the number. You would need agricultural experts, medical practitioners, engineers, people who understand basic chemistry, craftspeople who know how to work with stone, wood, and bone, people with wilderness survival skills. Realistically, you're looking at needing closer to 1,000 people, and they need to be specifically selected for knowledge, not randomly distributed. But let's get even more specific. Let's say you've got your 1,000 survivors with all the right skills. They still face a timeline problem that nobody talks about. In the first year, your population could theoretically grow by about 30% through reproduction. That's approximately 300 new humans, assuming everyone is of reproductive age and there are no complications. But women can't be constantly pregnant. A healthy population requires spacing between pregnancies. Most cultures historically spaced births about 2 to 3 years apart, so realistically, your 1,000 survivors might grow by 15 to 20% per year if conditions are optimal. That's 150 to 200 new humans per year. That seems like a lot until you realize that in the modern world, we're living in a state of artificial population density. We use resources that no hunter-gatherer society could manage. We depend on infrastructure that took centuries to build. Your 1,000 survivors can't farm like medieval Europe could farm. They're starting from a knowledge base, yes, but also from the ground up. The population growth, realistically, wouldn't exceed what pre-industrial societies achieved. That's about 1% to 2% annual growth, which means your 1,000 survivors might need 50 years just to reach a population of 2,000. It might take 200 years to build back to 50 million humans. It might take 500 years to approach current global population levels, and that's assuming nothing goes wrong. No plague, no famine, no natural disaster. History suggests that's optimistic. Here's the element that changes everything. The survivors you choose matter more than the number. This is the part that keeps population geneticists up at night. If your 1,000 survivors are mostly from one geographic region, they might carry similar genetic adaptations. Maybe they're adapted to cold climates. But if the climate shifts, the population struggles. If they're all from one ethnic background, genetic diversity is still compromised despite the higher number. The most resilient group of 1,000 survivors would be highly diverse. People from different continents, different genetic backgrounds, people who carry the broadest possible range of human variation. This dramatically increases the likelihood that the population can adapt to unforeseen challenges. So the actual answer to your original question is this. You need between 500 and 1,000 humans to repopulate Earth, but that number only works if 1. They're genetically diverse, 2. They include people with practical knowledge, 3. They have access to stored knowledge, books, tools, materials, 4. They're spread geographically so they can adapt to different environments, and 5. They're prepared for a multi-century recovery, not a quick fix. Without these factors, even 1,000 might not be enough. With all these factors optimized, even 500 might theoretically work. This is why scientists who study existential risk take population bottlenecks seriously. It's not just about raw numbers, it's about composition, it's about diversity, it's about what knowledge you preserve. The survival of humanity doesn't depend on finding any 500 humans, it depends on finding the right 500. And if you're wondering whether we could survive an even smaller bottleneck, we already have. We did it before, and we're still here because someone, somewhere, lived through the worst possible conditions and didn't give up.